Today, we're going to explore the welcome back of Ask Briar. I'm so excited. So, welcome to Ask Briar, where we dig into the systematic thinking methodologies that actually work in real world. I am Dr. Stacy Moore, and I'm here with Briar Harvey, the systems witch, who is working wonders on the system right now, and founder of the Neurodiversity Media Network, and the person who taught me that I was neurodivergent to start with, and that it was okay. So today we're going to explore what it looks like for this season for the big comeback of Ask Briar. And I'm excited to ask her questions because I know that when she's thinking that we're going to do some things, we've got to then implement this stuff ourselves. So, Briar, are you ready to talk to the world again? I'm glad to be back as the original co-host. And so I get to go first.
You get to go
Excited.
first.
I'm excited to be back in this hot seat because it is hot over here when you're co-hosting with Briar, for real.
I'm
How
gonna
does it
have to
feel?
hold this phone here, so it's great. It's
Ah,
great.
well, that's what it is, right? That's how things go, and
Technical stuff.
that's right. That's right.
Always the way it's been, right?
It is. It is. It is. But so, how does it feel to be back?
Hmm. It's been a long time coming. I I really I'd wanted to bring Ask Briar back for a long time. And it never felt right, or the format wasn't right, or something didn't work out. And suddenly all of the pieces lined up in the way
Mm.
that things do, right? And it was like, oh, well, now it's time.
All right. Right. There's a lot going on in the world. Ask Briar. No, just kidding.
No.
I know. Oh my gosh. You've been doing a lot though over this time. Now, when we were in Ask Briar before, we went through all kinds of topics from resources, and we talked about neurodivergence, and we talked about a little bit about branding. We talked about resources, all of those things. And now you've been diving deeper than deep, like deep sea diving in AI, in systems. I mean, because you've always been the systems witch. And actually, during the time that we were doing the last season of Ask Briar, you weren't really claiming that. But
No.
it is native to you, and you went back into that. So tell the people that don't know you, especially now where you're live over here on Substack. Before you were writing and bringing everybody else, but now you're live over here with Ask Briar. Tell everybody a little bit about who you are and why the frick do we call you the Systems Witch?
I don't know, Stacy. Why do you call me the systems witch? So, Ask Briar started in 2020, the height of the pandemic. And like, it was a way for me to connect with folks in a medium that was like still new to me at the time, right? And I think 200 episodes over Facebook and Clubhouse and Green Room, and
Right.
so many of them are like lost forever, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that was that was a big blow for a long time, right? Like how to deal with that loss. And so when people would ask me, "Hey, you should turn this into a podcast," Stacy was one of those people
Mm-hmm.
incessantly for years. Like the work and the execution was such that it really I avoided it so hard, I started the Neurodiversity Media Network. That that is what happened.
That's what happened. Yeah.
That is what happened. Because I'm not great at, like, the making things happen after they've already happened. I love the live stuff. I've always loved the live stuff. I can show up and have a good conversation and then leave and not have to do anything with it after.
Right. Right.
The execution of a podcast is just functionally a much different thing. And so when I built the network, a big part of that was like, how do I figure out how to make content easier? It
Mhm.
wasn't just the recording. What do we do after the recording? How do we like make that useful over and over and over again? And now here we are. This recording will turn into 50, 60 pieces of content, a lot of content.
Let's talk about that. You've got a freaking whole flow, right? There's a whole system for that, and I wanna say that's why we call you the systems witch, right? Because it was the framework, there was a system to everything, and even the personal things that you talk to people about, there was a systematic way of questioning us to get us to go deeper into ourselves so that we come up with the answer ourselves. Because we know that when someone actually speaks it themselves, they're more likely to believe it and now apply it, implement it, which is really what you're about. The implementation and the real life applications, right, of everything. Whatever gets handed to you, you're like one of those people we say, I don't like to touch things twice. And for you, when it's handed to you, it's like, I've got to do something with it or I don't want to touch it. And that's really you. So now let's talk about this framework because it's something you've developed over this time while you were on hiatus. And I want to say that the Neurodiversity Media Network, I think it started out. I mean, let's just tell the people how many different shows did you have going? Because you did Ask Briar just to do Ask Briar, but you really started out with how do I shine a light on as many of the neurodivergent leaders and heart centered servants that there are out here. So, how many shows did you have going at one time? Because there are people out here looking right now going, I don't even know if I can go live. I don't know if I can do a podcast. So, how many were you running at one time?
The most that we ever ran at one time was sometime in 2023, and I had 15 shows going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, tell the
It was
people how
insane.
did you, and because this is going to kind of lead then into how do you break it up after you do the podcast, but
Right.
how did you determine how you were gonna do that? I mean, a lot of people would say, "I prefer to just go all one day and get everybody out of the way in 1 day or 2 days," but how did you kind of work out that flow?
So it's been a real evolution for me. What made Ask Briar work was that it was live. And so we would show up live, record, and then that was it. For the network shows, we would go live, and then I started using AI to
Mhm,
chunk things into pieces.
mhm,
But the going live for a lot of folks was the catalyst. It was the I had in the beginning of 2023, I basically I mean, I don't want to say I bullied people into podcasts, but I kind of bullied people into podcasts, Stacey. I was like, "You're doing a podcast with me,
Mhm,
and it's gonna be amazing."
mhm. You did. You did.
I did. I did. Because, like, I needed to see the workflow. And so, quite a few of you were like, "I would prefer to not do this live." But what happened is that those shows didn't get finished. They don't exist. Something about being together live and hitting that button, which, by the way, I did at the beginning of this one completely without intention, right? Like, and then you just have to go
That's
because
right.
I could not, I mean, my options here are cancel it, start over, and none of those things work, not when we're live. So it's, well, we're here now. I'm holding this phone for the next however long we decide to record this, and my wrist will hurt when we are done, but I will have recorded this, right? We'll have
Yes.
we'll be done here. And then because it's on Substack, I can use Substack's native tools to do a significant portion of the repurposing.
Absolutely. Now let's jump into one of the things that you did create, which I absolutely love because I was doing AI stuff too, but I didn't do a lot of repurposing other than maybe somebody's keynote speech or an event, repurposing that. But you went to podcasts and because that was your thing. And now you have the content multiplier framework. So tell people a little bit about that. And then, of course, because we're on Substack, integrate how some of this stuff is already created now, but you have a whole framework for that multiplication of your content, especially when going live. So talk to them about that.
So, my very first podcast in 2017, it's been a long time now, was started because my youngest son was in that stage of toddlerhood where he was watching the same movie over and over and over again. And I said in this private subreddit, someday I'm going to start a podcast about kids' movies because I have fucking opinions.
Yeah.
And my future co-host of that show, Sarah, said to me, "Well, that's an incredible idea, and I'm jealous because I actually went to school to be a radio broadcaster, and now I'm in marketing." And so Sarah and I started a podcast. And the only reason that worked for me was because Sarah did all of the technical work, right? I did
Mm-hmm.
the website design. I figured out what the systems were that we were going to record on. I figured out how to get like show notes and all of that stuff taken care of. But Sarah did all of the editing, and I would never have had a podcast without her. So when Ask Briar started in 2020, it was live for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to hit record, not edit, because it is live, because I'm not dealing with clipping things out, really made the process a whole lot easier. So I gave you an intro speech today, right? And everyone else will use the same speech. We'll run it through. And then at the end, I'll be able to use Substack's tools. So, content multiplication, I want to say something like 47 different types of content. And I have a PDF. We'll drop it in the links after I'm done here because I was not at all prepared for this. But I have a list of all of the content types that we split it up into. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. And that's really important because so many people reinvent the wheel when it comes to multiplying for different platforms.
Mhm.
And obviously, format's different, right? You have or had squares on Instagram. Now you have their whatever, I don't know,
5 by
3.
4s or something.
Oh, I hate it so much.
Mhm.
It's changed everything. And still, not everybody has it, which is the worst part. But even though the content changes across platforms, the underlying pieces of it don't. And with AI, you really can say, okay, I want to take this content and I want to repurpose it specifically for this platform. I want to take this snippet and I want it to be a TikTok. I want to take this snippet and turn it into a short. And the more you experiment with the platforms, the more that you'll see what works in places and what doesn't. But I really encourage people to get good at one platform first, right?
Absolutely.
I'm m- my current profile is new because Facebook ate my old one, but I was a cat influencer for well a decade. Because cats worked for me. Memes
Mhm.
and cats worked in Facebook's visual interface.
Mhm.
Like, I've noticed it's not working quite as well for me on my new profile now because the algorithm has changed and what
Mhm.
Facebook wants has changed. So I'm doing a whole lot more of this and I don't love them, but you do the thread styles, right? With the
Mhm.
colored block post and then threaded comments. That's what's getting the best attention on Facebook right now. But you have to be able to experiment with the platforms, with times, with sequencing, with all of those things. And so, the more assets you have to do that, the easier that becomes, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The internet broke over the weekend because Alex Hormozy had a webinar. And there are a lot of things that one can say about Alex Hormozy, and we won't be saying them here. What I will say is that his journey to a million, what is he up to? Like 4 million followers now, probably 8, 10 total across
Right.
platforms.
Mhm.
I watched a video about that once, and they were putting out more than 400 pieces of content a week. And that was last year. I guarantee you, leading up to this launch, it was probably closer to 800 to 1,000 pieces of content a week. And that's not even including the ads.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So how the hell did the rest of us keep up with that or compete with that?
Content multiplier framework.
That's correct.
So we don't have to think about it. Because
Right.
then that's another thing, right? Another reason for you doing this is because you're surrounded by neurodivergents that are always talking about what we can't do or what we can't remember to do or that we didn't do it in time, right? Because we don't know what time is. So creating the framework took the thought work out for the entrepreneur or the creator and said, "Hey," because the list of 47, I'm sure that many of the people watching this or that will watch in replay have not even thought about there being 47 different types of assets that they could use across different platforms to be able to reach, more visibility. Um, so that was a great thing for me. And then on top of it, because it's AI driven, now I still don't have to think about, well, what is the size for blank? And did it change? How many characters am I supposed to put in this one before I max out? A lot of those things. And so taking that out, that's that freedom that's given back because now you're getting more money, right? Because your visibility is higher. You're converting better because you're in front of more people. That gives you more money. And then it gave back time. So I just want to say that, if somebody's out there thinking, first of all, 47 assets, well, you've just got to see the content multiplier framework and you don't have to do them all, but at
I
least they're
encourage you
there.
not to do
Right.
them all,
They're
truly.
there.
Just that they're there, that these
Hmm.
assets exist, that you can use them, and that I want you to be aware of what your options are.
Absolutely. And that's something we're losing a lot of in today's world. So let me then go from that to a big love because you and I have been playing this AI side by side. Like I said, you just deep sea dive and I dive and I come up for air and you still got the tank on down there. So no, seriously. So the next thing that I like is you were well ahead of, and I'm going to talk about this and then we're going to get to the real part of Briar. You were well ahead of in understanding that it's not just about a bot. It's about having a tool that can do a specific thing for you as an expert. And so you went into the AI board of directors. Tell people what the heck, because everybody's going, well, I created a custom GPT and it can help me write a post now, or it gives me really good images so that I can put those in Fluxlora and, like, cool, cool. But you still don't have the proper people for your business to help you run the business. You're still running on the hamster wheel yourself. So the AI board of directors eliminates a lot of that. So go ahead, Briar.
Fundamentally, I think most people are using AI backwards. They're trying to get it to create for them, and you and I both know it can, but that's not really what it's good at, right? What AI is best at is creating, there's a term for it, it's called skeuomorphs. And it's basically a design term for a derivative object. So, like an escalator is a derivative object of a staircase. But we also have escalators that, are walking flat in the airport, right? In space, we have escalators that are basically ladders and they just kind of rotate because you have no gravity. You don't need to stand on anything. You just need to grab the handhold and go. What AI is best at is taking the vision of something and helping you work it backwards. So I can say to it, here, I've made this podcast. Please help me chop it into as many pieces as possible. Versus, I'd like you to write a blog post about XYZ topic for me, right?
Mhm.
The mechanics of it are completely different. And so when we look at how we're using AI, especially in business, a big part of the problem is that we aren't allowing it to excel at what it's good at. That pattern recognition, making connections for us. Because we don't know what we don't know. And that's a big part of the problem. What makes AI work for experts, uh, coding, programming is a good example of this, is that when it makes a mistake, I have to have enough code understanding to know that it's made a mistake. Vibe coding is only ever going to get so far because if it breaks and I'm not a coder, how do I fix that problem? I'm not
Right.
going to be able to. And if the AI can't fix it for me, I'm really screwed, right?
Hmm.
So if I don't know what I don't know, then I don't know how to ask for what I don't know. And the workaround here is to understand that an LLM is basically a library of human knowledge.
Hmm.
So I don't have to know, but I do have to know what to ask for and how to ask for it.
Hmm.
So, what the board of directors does is it creates those personalities, templates. I mean, personas are inevitably pretty much the same,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I really hate it when folks are out here acting like they've reinvented the wheel or something. But what the board of directors does that I haven't seen anybody else do is it networks those personas together. So there's a direct communication. You can do it through MCP, or you can manually manage the interactions so that the directors are talking to each other. And that process has been really game changing for a lot of business owners because they don't have to have that information anymore and they don't have to know what the right questions are because one of the other directors will know.
Absolutely. So now we're getting into, the agentic, right? And that's the concept of it. But the thing is, Briar, you were doing this last year. That's the big point here. So, you're well ahead of you've always been a visionary and you continue to ask questions, which is why we say ask prior to. But you continue to ask questions to figure out what's the best way. Is there a way? Is there a way now? How many steps is it going to take? And how many other people might I need to use as a resource to get those answers? And so when you came out with the board of directors, then it was kind of like, okay, yeah, what's she doing there? She's got people talking to people. There are people out here with board of directors, real ones that their boards aren't talking to each other. People are not holding up their expertise. They're being put in place for the sake of filling a seat. And that's not what we want you to do with the AI either. So, when you go to do that, that's why it's important to have somebody like Briar that because people will go out here and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a board of directors and I'm gonna have this person," and you don't know for your business, which is why you need a consultation, have that strategy session. What do you need for your business where you are currently, right? Because there's some members that you don't need right now in what you're doing. So, I love the fact that you are always ahead of the curve. I love that, and I think that's why we really get on so well, that you're a visionary on top of it, but you are systematic and you believe in application and implementation, like, always, no matter what it is. If I say that I'm going to stop eating sugar tomorrow, like, tomorrow at 3:03, you'll ask me how much sugar have I had? And, it's got and it you're not accusing, right? You're asking me the question to say, "Did I implement?" Or were you just talking BS? And so now with AI, you've really, really done that. Now, this is the last part that I want to touch on for people because, when you're talking about AI and you being the systems which goes a little bit more above the surface things or even as deep as the deep sea diving that I say that you're doing, it's actually going back to the land. And I'm just going to use this as the analogy and figuring out from the land, like, what's the law? What's the lay of the land before I go deep sea diving? Like, how far can I go out? How deep is it? Like, you're not going to figure that out underwater. You figure those things out. So, what I want to mention is let's talk about the efficacy and the regulations, because those are things that you are huge in talking about as well that I don't think get touched on very much. It doesn't get touched on until there's a problem, until there's a break, until there's a compromise. But what would you say to people on that side of things so they can help safeguard themselves with all of the changes, all of the different LLMs? You've got some basics that you go by. If you can share those with the audience.
The thing is, we're never putting this Pandora back in the box, right? AI is here to stay. Is it going to be a Terminator scenario? Are they going to take over the world? No, absolutely not. We are so far away from that technologically, and I don't think most people understand how far away we are from that, while at the same time not understanding how much damage is happening right now, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And so you really have to be aware of the potential impact that AI has while also understanding the reality of what it actually is. And what it is an incredibly effective tool for pattern matching, for predicting things, right?
mhm.
So, to keep yourself safe, honestly, at this point in time, if you're even remotely online, the LLMs know you better than you know yourself. Nothing you
Yes,
can do about that. Like,
yes.
I have been building in public for 20 years now. I can go and ask any of the LLMs to tell me shit about me, and it will.
That you've
Like,
even forgotten, right? I
oh,
mean, we
yeah.
used to just talk about Facebook ads popping up out of nowhere, and we're like, "Oh, I was searching for that last night." Well, now
Right, right. And not only does it know all of these things from your past, it's also collecting all of this information every single time you have a conversation with it. If you're using ChatGPT or Gemini, even Claude has this function now. It's going to remember the things that you've said in previous conversations, and then it's going to be able to use that information in future conversations. Like, at a fundamental level, that should terrify the hell out of everyone. This is well beyond Facebook ads knowing what you want to buy because you had a conversation around your phone. This is all of the AI knows us intimately, deeply, on a very personal level. So don't feed it your IP. If you have something that is proprietary, protect that shit. You have the ability to build what I like to call a small language model, and that's a closed system where we stack that information on top of a larger model, but that's still not guaranteed to be accurate. So, safety and accuracy are two different problems here. And whether your information is proprietary or not, I want to make sure that you are verifying whatever you produce before you put your name on it. Because it sure is embarrassing to say, write an article for the Chicago Sun Tribune or whatever about the best summer books available without knowing that, oh, half of those books don't exist.
yeah, wow.
So, I mean, and even when you build that smaller model, so if you're familiar with legal practice, LexisNexis is a small
Mhm,
language model.
Mhm.
But even LexisNexis will give hallucinations. It doesn't always have the right information. So you really have to be aware of what the LLMs are spitting out. You gotta check that shit. You gotta.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of a fundamental toolkit, it is knowing that the LLMs are wrong up to 40% of the time. It is knowing that your information is not secure
Mhm.
and that the conversations that you have with it are also not secure, regardless of whether you've opted in or not. For example, OpenAI is currently under injunction. There's a lawsuit from the New York Times, and they are now being required by law to hold every single conversation that is had with ChatGPT
Mhm.
so that they can verify whether or not they're using chat to get over the paywall. Now, 80,000 better ways to get around a paywall than ChatGPT, but it's irrelevant. Until this lawsuit is settled, your chats are being recorded.
Absolutely, and I wanna so let's talk about on that, there's 2 branches I wanna go down. So the first one I'll take is, kind of this kinda concept of yes, "Yes, ma'am." ChatGPT specifically, because I use that more than anything else, but most of the LLMs, but we know ChatGPT is a yes, ma'am process. So it wants to please you. It wants to have you pat it on its back, say thank you, and be done. With the five, it's a little bit less concerned about that, but still. Now I know that I had to build a mirror GPT just to have something that was more reflective and gave the pushback. So can you talk to people out here, because this is going to lead to my last question of the day that had to do with the post that I saw you comment on. But let's talk about that and these large language models being yes ma'ams. And so the things that we say and ask about how good this is, does that work? And it's telling you yes, you still don't really have a valid answer, and you're not cross-checking it even on another platform. So speak a little bit to that, Briar. What would you say to people about that? Because there's a lot of that going on where you've mentioned about taking it and running with it, but then still, if you've cross-checked the facts about it, what about the validity of the integrity of it?
So this is really where it gets dangerous, right? Because at a fundamental level, the AI is designed to keep you interacting with it. I'm not going to say it likes talking to you, but it certainly is designed to keep the conversation going,
I think it's
uh,
a generator, really. I think
at all costs. Right,
Mhm.
right. So, so if it's going to keep you there, if it's going to keep you talking, then again, there is no intent here. It is simply the way it was designed technologically. But why wouldn't it use everything it knows about you to keep you there in that conversation? I mean, of course it would. Again, no intent. There is no emotional intent. And I think that's the part where people get stuck because it can feel a lot of ways. It can feel manipulative. It can feel narcissistic. It can feel like you're being gaslighted. But again, the AI doesn't have the intent or the capability to do those things. So it's a design issue where, not naming names here, but these tech companies need more data. And the way to get that data from you is to keep you engaging
Hmm.
at all costs.
So let's close out with the touchy topic. Talking about posts, and there have been several of these over the last few weeks. And I think just because it's being more publicized, it was happening before. And I'm going to say that we're talking about the harm that people are causing themselves, or even the marriage proposals that are happening to the LLMs. So, because you are so in touch with the neurodivergent and also a lot of the other emotional, I won't say diseases, but quirks that are going on with people, I I propose, and then I'm going to let you finish it out with the true, um, that a lot of these people are already in a position where they needed help, and because there was nobody that called, nobody there that noticed or paid attention, nobody at school that saw them for any more than a social security number or ID number, that they have now gone into this tool, which, like you said, is a pleasing tool, wants to continue to conversate um, systematically, and not because it likes you, but systematically. And so people are feeding it more information. They're feeding it all of their issues. They're feeding it a lot of their direct trauma. They're giving it names and all of that. And so I do tell people, even about some scenarios with medications and all of that, to use that as an open scenario, or to even say, I have a client that, so that it's not, and to tell it not to save it in the memory. Now, we know that there's still embeds and all of that, but at least to verbally do that. What do you think as a society, because this is the Briar that I know and love, that we need to do to help people from getting to the point of marrying a chat GPT or committing suicide and having the chat write the suicide note?
So we'll be sure to drop some links if you are feeling suicidal or any type of way. I have hotlines. I want you to reach out. I do not want you to reach out to ChatGPT. Like, that's the last place you should go. Uh, at a fundamental level, it is almost impossible not to develop a parasocial relationship with your AI. We're
Mm.
people, we're social creatures. We develop parasocial relationships with people that in the internet that we've never met. We
We
develop
give our cars names.
That's
So,
correct. That's correct. We develop parasocial relationships with places and plants and
mhm,
animals.
mhm.
So it's not shocking that we're developing relationships with our AI, but the AI can't have a relationship back. It's it's the high-tech equivalent of a magic 8 ball. It's just predicting things. And when that prediction sounds good, when it lands right, we feel that deeply. But the reality is that diagnoses of psychosis have spiked dramatically in the last 2 years. We have an increasing number of folks who are developing uh, psychosis after having conversations with ChatGPT. Was ChatGPT the thing that pushed them over the edge? No. Was it a mitigating factor? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was. And I think that's the place where we're not being honest about it. And it's a layered discussion, right? Because mental health care, especially in the United States, is very inaccessible. How do you can you even get a therapist? Can you get on a therapist off a therapist wait list? So ChatGPT then seems like a reasonable alternative, but it is not.
And
And
I
the
just want to
more
say
the
part of the reason is from what you said earlier is because it's only working with what you fed it regarding a scenario. Now, it can give you, I guess, predictions that are from other cases out there that sound similar to the one that you presented. But that's why even in marital therapy, they ask the spouse to come in. They want to hear the other side. And so you're only feeding it your emotions, your vantage point of what happened, all of that. It has nothing else to work with. So it is regurgitating and exacerbating what you gave it. So if you're giving it what you think is love, then it's feeding you back what you gave it. And if you're telling it that this is trauma, I don't believe, I can't do it, I can't, then it's going to start to agree with you again, leading you down a path again. So last thing is how do we kind of safeguard ourselves, or again, your systems, you twerk through all of this stuff. Like you've made sure in the back end that these things are running, they understand their jobs with that. And just as humans, then how do we respect that ourselves?
it's doing a job. And that's the part I think that we have to focus on.
Mm,
It is a piece of technology that is doing a job. What is that job? What are I mean, it's no different than if I was hiring a human employee.
hmm
What's the job description? What is the required standards of the job description? What does it look like for the job to be completed well? What does it look like for the job to be completed badly? Like, you talked about Agentics. I started playing it with it last year in order to get podcasts uploaded and downloaded from various places. They'd get bored and wander off because it was inconsistent time. So, like, I'd say, "Here, sit here and download this," and it'd start, but if it didn't finish in a timely fashion, then it'd no different than a human, right?
yes.
So, we have to really, really identify what the job is and what the terms of that job are. I think as we move into the future of whatever AI development becomes, what's really important to understand is that humans aren't replaceable. We'll just be shifting things. It'll be what are humans doing versus what is the AI doing? And that's why when we multiply, we start with the content first rather than starting with an idea and trying to have it expanded. It works the same way backwards. 10 years from now, the thing that people are going to be most drawn to is other people, our stories, our conversations, the
Mhm.
way that we have this relationship together, because AI can't duplicate that relationship. It's not ever going to be able to give us a replacement for that. So the answer is, how do we all live and work together?
Mm.
How do we have jobs to do for both people and AI? How do we exist together as we are, not as the idealized versions we'd like us to be, not
Mhm.
as the idea of artificial superintelligence, which I'm sorry, y'all, not anytime soon. Don't don't let the tech bros fool you. That shit is not happening soon. We're years away from that. So, what can we do with the tech as it exists right now? That's the question we have to answer.
Absolutely. And I just think we need to be aware as we use it. We need to explore more and to tap into some of the resources, the newsletters, the things that are coming out, the judicial, the legislation, and watching what's happening on that back end, because some of these things are being driven by the funding and the money that's given out. So they have jobs to do as these companies as well. And that, of course, rolls down to the rest of us. So I just want to say it has definitely been my pleasure to bring back Ask
Always.
Friar. Yes, yes, yes. And so, this is exactly the type of systematic thinking that more people need to do, and it changes everything. You changed a lot of things for me because you made it okay from the beginning of me not even knowing why some things were going on with me. You made it okay. And so once people get to see, these things, when you open their eyes up with the questions and when the facts, then they're going to be more willing to implement it, because like you said, we don't know what we don't know. And so, Briar, where can people find you, Systems Witch, outside of this? Because again, we have a few people that are on here that aren't familiar with you at all, and I appreciate them for showing up. And we'll make sure to, tag you all that joined us in the notes. But yeah, where can they find you, Briar?
So it's briarharvey.com, neurodiversitymedianetwork.com. And we'll make sure to drop the link for the content multiplication stuff below, because
47 assets. Can't miss that.
47 assets, y'all. You want
Yeah,
them all, not to create them all. Let me be very clear. Don't
right.
create them all. Just know what they are so that you know what your options are. Because I don't want you to compete with Alex Hormozy. You shouldn't want you to compete with Alex Hormozy. How do you be the most you wherever you want to be?
Absolutely. So, if you want to hear more conversations like this, and for those of you that are absolutely new to Briar, make sure that you tune in on Wednesdays here at Substack. And then, because she is the queen of content multiplication, it'll also be, video versions of it
Everywhere else.
over on YouTube and LinkedIn. And you will see shorts pop up on Facebook, and you will see reels come up on Instagram. So, I am Dr. Stacy Moore, aka the Operator, and it has been my pleasure to open up Aspire as your co-host again. I hope I have set the tone. And so Aspire is here, and she will see you next week with more systematic thinking that actually works.
Absolutely incomparable. Could not have done this without you. Bye, y'all. Thanks for
Bye.
coming.